What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. It is Hart DFS. Today we have another NBA slate breakdown on Draftkings. If you're new to the channel, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Make a ton of content focused on Draftkings NBA games, as well as NBA prize pick videos, which I do release every day. So two videos a day for you guys to enjoy. One DFS, one prize picks. So a lot of good content. So definitely make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate the support, as I always say. Also make sure to follow me on Twitter, HartDFS. Trying to get to 300 plus not subscribers, but followers, 500 plus subscribers. Doing a giveaway when I hit both of those marks. But I put up extra prize pick plays. We've been on a little bit of a streak, so I've been putting up some extra ones. Doing well there. And yeah, I just want any questions you guys have. Make sure to send them my way on Twitter. I'll be happy to answer them there. And let's get into the video. So we got a 2-game slate tomorrow on Sunday. Recording this the day before, it's a little bit of an early look. I'll try to get a day of video tomorrow with my solidified core, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to. So at least we'll have these videos out as an early look. But we got Milwaukee versus Boston in the first game. Giannis at 11K looks great. Prices come down a little bit, which we do like to see. Obviously, Middleton is out this whole series. So a lot of the production is going to fall onto Giannis and Jrue Holiday. So I both really like either one of them, and even playing both of them in the spot. Jrue's been a little up and down, especially in that Bulls series. He, for his price, he did okay. He kind of wanted a little bit more, but he really didn't need to. Giannis kind of took over in the last 2 games. So either one of them, if you're going there, I don't mind it at all. Boston was great defensively against KD and the Nets. I think it's going to be a little bit different. I think they played 4 games this year. Obviously, Brook Lopez was out for a lot of them. One of the games, Tatum didn't play. I don't think all 3 stars in the Milwaukee side played in all of them. I think there's a few games where one of them was missing. So every game was close, though, which is what you like to see in this series. I do think it's gonna be a great series. These games are all gonna be close, so I think it's gonna be a great one to target. Shouldn't be any blowouts, hopefully not, but I'm not really scared of Boston's defense. It's Giannis. You really, no matter who you throw on him, he's pretty much gonna be able to do what he wants. I know he was getting a decent amount of offensive, charges in that Bulls series, but that's a little scary because considering how good the Celtics defense is. But at the same time, it's Giannis. I do think even if they tried to stop him, they're going to need 2 people. It's not like it's KD where he's a small guy. Giannis will take on 2-3 people at a time. So that will definitely leave guys like Jrue Holiday and Bobby Portis to step up offensively. So I really like all 3, Giannis, Holiday, and Portis at the top for me. Bobby has done well against the Celtics off the bench, and now that he's kind of moved into a starting role, he's going to see close to 30 minutes. He'll get his minutes bumped up even more if he's shooting the ball well. He's shooting about 12 and a half, 13 times a game in the past 3 games against the Bulls. I do expect this to continue on for Bobby. He's a great point per minute guy, great energy player. As you can see, 18, 16, 14, 10, 14, 17. They're going to really need Bobby Portis to step up big and be the third scorer for them. So as I mentioned, 10 times so far. Really like all 3 at the top for me. Don't think you can go wrong there. Brook Lopez is kind of like a sleeper play, I guess. I don't know how much he's going to play. You could say, Boston could go, a little bit, not slower, but a little bit smaller. And they could, Robert Williams could be the 5. Al Horford could be at the 4, or that you can reverse them. I just think Brook Lopez might struggle to get his normal minutes of about 30 in this matchup against the Celtics, with the Celtics being able to go small. I think Brook Lopez might get phased out of this series. We'll have to see, but that's just my thoughts on it. I do think there's a risk of him getting phased out of the series, but let's just go with what it is right now. He's getting about 25, 30-ish minutes. He looks like an okay play at 5'3". He's been hitting his threes decently, since that series 1-5, but then 3-6, 1-2. And then he kind of fell off 0-2, 0-0, kind of hit more of inside layups, whatnot. He's going to get, a few rebounds. He's good at getting some blocks, but it's just the scoring. He's kind of a little bit scoring dependent just because of the minutes are not always consistent, because he does get phased out if the other teams go small. So he's a little risky at 5,300 for me. Grayson Allen obviously has been playing amazing against the Bulls in that series. 36 fantasy points, 38, 23, 8 of 12, 10 of 12, 5 of 10. He's been absolutely amazing from three. Will he continue the shooting? I'm not sure. Obviously, shooting 71%, 85, and 50% from three is, wild. Most likely not going to happen. But they will need one of these bench guys to step up, like Grayson, Pat Connaughton, maybe even Wesley Matthews. He played pretty decent against the Bulls. Obviously, didn't score the ball a ton, but defensively, he was great for them. He should see a good amount of minutes. Same with Pat Connaughton when it comes to defense. Throwing him on Tatum and Brown. Pat Connaughton is a decent defender, so I know the series when they played Kawhi in the playoffs a few years ago, Pat Connaughton did get minutes against Kawhi and defended him. He's like a decent defender, so Pat Connaughton's minutes should see float around 25-ish, maybe 30 if he's hitting his shots, but he's a guy who can get hot from three, score a good amount of points in a few amount of minutes just because he's hitting those threes. Little scoring dependent, as you can see, but I don't mind him at 3,900. I'd say my favorite play down below here is, I guess, Grayson and then Pat Connaughton, but yeah, I think that's where I'd go. Carter played good minutes for them in the last game against the Bulls. The game kind of blew out, so he did get a little extra run. But he got 5 steals as well, which is pretty much 10 fantasy points right there. Otherwise, he would have been floating around 15. So I don't think he had to do it in this series. I just stick to Giannis, Jrue Holiday, Bobby Portis, and then using Grayson Allen or Pat Connaughton as your value. On the Boston side, we have Jason Tatum at the top, 9,400. Looks amazing in the spot against the Bucks. Not scared of the Bucks defense. If you look at all the box scores from the previous games, Tatum or Brown has been able to do whatever they want when it comes to the Bucks defense. So I don't mind getting to Tatum here. Should see close to 40 minutes, play the whole game, shoot the ball a ton. Obviously, he's playing at an MVP caliber, season or playoffs right now. Doing amazing, 9,400, great price for him. Jaylen Brown, really like him at 7,900. The issue is just the left hamstring tightness. So 7,900 is a great price for Jaylen Brown. It's just, could he, tweak that hamstring where he loses minutes, or he's just a little off and not aggressive, not scoring. So that's something to keep an eye on for the news today, or not today, for tomorrow. Marcus Smart looks decent at 6,200. He's playing the minutes, great defensive player. His scoring, kind of, going to float around his average of around 12. Did get a lot of assists last game and points versus the Bulls. I'd expect him to drop back down to, the previous game around 14 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, steal or 2. Not bad in this series, especially if Jaylen Brown's going to be a little bit off. You can definitely look to a guy like Marcus Smart to help out offensively. But I don't know. I don't mind it. It's pretty much on the Boston side, as we've seen. Tatum and Brown take over, and then guys like Marcus Smart or Horford, they'll have like a decent game as a 3A guy, their third option. Al Horford, one of those things where he might be on Giannis a lot, which could lead to foul trouble. He's a guy that does foul a little bit. Had to guard KD, did a decent job in the series, but did get in some foul trouble. So he did lose some minutes there. If he's going to play his normal amount of minutes, I want to see the starting lineup for the Boston side, see how they're going to start these guys. I'd assume Al Horford does get the start, whether it be center or power forward alongside Robert Williams. Decent play, 5,700. Obviously, he's done a lot better in the last half of this season, leading into the playoffs. So I don't mind getting into him right now. Just would rather wait to see what the starting lineup is. Robert Williams is a guy I really, really like at 5,000. Coming off that injury, he saw 16 minutes and then 14. So he didn't play a ton. They said his minutes limit was in the 24-minute range and then only played 14 in a close game. but I do expect his minutes limit to be bumped up to at least 25 and him play close to that number, if not more. One of the things that's going to change the whole slate is obviously the news on how many minutes Robert Williams is going to play, because as you can see, even in a short amount of time, 24 minutes, he put up 31 fantasy points, 25, 40, 26, 31. Before that, 24, 28, 35, 20, but 34, 31, 20, 33. So if he's even in a short amount of minutes, 25 minutes, he's able to put up 40 fantasy points. He's do-it-all defensive player when it comes to blocks and even steals. And he's a double-double machine. He doesn't go off crazy high scoring games just because of Tatum and Brown having all the usage. But as you can see, he can get an easily 10 and 10 with a few blocks and a few steals, and that's at 5K. Really, really like Robert Williams. Just had to wait on the news for today, but I'm going to throw him in the core as of right now, a day early. Tice, I don't know if he will be relevant in this series. Maybe they'll need his help to guard Giannis for a little bit, give the other guys a breather. But I do probably see Tice be limited around 20 minutes. 4K, it's not terrible, but I just don't see a spot where Tice does well in this series, especially when you get to throw guys at Giannis. I can see Tice being one of those guys who's just going to get foul trouble pretty much every time he plays against Giannis. So I don't think I'd get too Tice. We'll have to see the starting lineup, as I mentioned, in this spot. White, he'll kind of float around 15 to 25 minutes, depending if it's a blowout or not, or if they need, to give guys, like if Brown, let's say Brown does get a little injured, tweaks his hamstring, Derrick White's going to, get a minutes bump. You obviously can't predict that or kind of hope for that. But 3,900 is, he's definitely worth a look as some salary relief. He's a good shooter, and he can get you the rebounds and assists as well. So it's just, the minutes obviously are not there for him to do too well at 3,900, but don't mind, keeping him as an open value play for the slate tomorrow. Grant Williams is a guy who I mentioned. He's either going to get, 25 fantasy points or he's going to get 12. It just depends if he's getting those blocks or steals. And if he's hitting his threes, he's pretty much only in there to hit those corner threes, which he's done very well. But the last game versus the Nets is pretty much a ceiling game for him. 14 points, 3 rebounds, assists, 3 blocks. That's 6 points right there. Would have been at 20 fantasy points. That's not terrible at 3,800. It's like, 7 times almost his salary. But I just don't think he get to do it. They could. The thing is, with Grant Williams, he defended KD very well in that series when he, played the minutes. Obviously, he played a lot of minutes, but he's not a high usage guy. I do think you could probably expect the same when it comes to Giannis. Grant Williams is kind of a stronger built guy, so I could see them throwing him on Giannis for a decent amount. See Grant getting close to that 30-minute mark. And if he does, he's definitely worth taking a shot at 3,800 as a nice value play for this slate. So definitely keep that in mind. Pritchard, not really playing the minutes. Otherwise, if he was playing 20 minutes, I'd definitely say take a shot on him just because he's a good shooter and can facilitate. But 3,200, probably not getting the minutes in this series. That really does it for me on this side. Moving on to the Golden State Warriors and Memphis game. We have Steph at the top, 8,900. Obviously, do I have to say anything? It's Steph at 8,900. Lock that in. Thompson looks great. Once again, he got 4 steals, so that definitely helped 8 fantasy points right there. But it's the minutes. He's playing a good amount of minutes. He's shooting the ball well. When it's Steph, Clay, and Draymond are all on the floor together, they pretty much go back to the old form, 4 or 5 years ago when they were the best team in the league. And you could arguably say they are still one of the best teams or the best team in the league. But they all just flow together. They have so much chemistry. They all play so much better together when they're all on the floor together. So I do really like Clay. He's really bounced back the past few weeks, past month. He's shooting the ball a ton more. He's shooting the ball well, doing more, rebounding and defensively. So I don't mind getting the Clay in this spot at 7,100. I'm not really sure who on the Memphis side is going to be able to handle the Warriors side, especially with the emergence of Jordan Poole, this year. Obviously, last year he had a great end of the year, but this year he's been on fire. With Clay and Steph back, as you can see, his shot attempts have come down a bit. I'm not saying that he really needs a ton of shots to score. He's a guy who can get to the free throw line. But I just think at 6,800, he's a little too pricey for me. He still can have a good game, but with everyone back, it's going to go, offense is going to flow through Steph and then Clay. And then Jordan Poole is just pretty much going to be looked to as a guy to maybe get those, 10 seconds left on the shot clock, try to drive or kick it out. So at 6,800, I just think he's a little too expensive for me. Do like Draymond at 6,600. Last game, kind of got off to a really slow start. Still got you 30 fantasy points. Obviously not going to be a very high score, but with Clay and Steph in the game, as I mentioned last slate where the Warriors played, Draymond is very good at cutting to the basket and faking handoffs, getting those easy layups and dunks when it comes to setting the screens for Steph and Clay. I know he slips to the basket a lot, so keep that in mind. His points per game could go up to around 10, if not more. I know in that last game against Denver, he missed a good amount of shots at the rim, which is very annoying. But as I said, for Steph, Clay, and Draymond, when they're all playing together, when they're all on the floor, I think you really, really have to consider playing at least 2 of them, if not 3 of them, just because of how good they are together. And if they win the game, it's most likely going to be because of Steph, Clay, and then Draymond's going to be a great facilitator, obviously a great defender. So I do really like Draymond in the spot at 6,600 against the Grizzlies. Jordan Poole, as I said, a little too pricey. Andrew Wiggins, he's kind of getting to that price range of you can definitely take a shot on him. They're not looking for him to score a ton. Did lose some minutes against the Nuggets. But he's a guy who, if Steph and Clay are getting off to a slow start, they could look to Wiggins to, score a little bit more. And he's decent defensively, can oversteal a game, can get you some blocks, averaging about 6 rebounds the past, week in the series against Denver. So I don't mind him at 5,600. He's definitely worth taking a look at in this matchup in series against Memphis, because he's a guy who, if you didn't see in the Denver series, he did start posting up the smaller guards, and that could definitely happen against Ja, Bane, even though Bane's pretty strong, but Bane, even Dylan Brooks. So I don't mind him at 5,600. It's weird to say, but I have some decent interest in Andrew Wiggins at 5,600. Obviously not too involved offensively as of right now, but they can look to him to score a little bit more. And if he's going to get you 30 fantasy points at 5,600, that's not too shabby. Otto Porter Jr., pretty big drop off when it comes to this side, obviously because the offense all comes from the top, 6 guys. But Otto Porter Jr., I don't mind taking a shot at him at 3,700. He should see close to 25 minutes. Obviously, he's not too involved in the offensive game, kind of limited to around 5 or less shots. But he can have those games where he puts up a double-double, or even like 10, as you see right here, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 14 points, 11 rebounds in 27 minutes, 14 and 15 in 26 minutes on 8 shots, 16 and 16. So if they do need a little spark off the bench, and he's getting those minutes around 25, I think Otto Porter Jr. could be a good value play for this slate at 3,700. So I don't mind throwing him in there. Obviously, having 5 or 6 Golden State guys is kind of a lot, or even 4, but you're gonna have to find some value on the slate, and Otto Porter Jr. is one of those guys who you could look to. Gary Payton Jr. Played a lot of minutes in that last game, but I do think he's going to float back down to around the 15-minute mark, maybe a little bit more, depending on if they want him to guard Ja more. So definitely keep. I do have some interest in it at 3,400. Let me backtrack a little bit. He's a great defender. Steph is obviously not a great defender, so Ja should obviously do very well. So maybe they'll put Steph on. I don't know who they put Steph on, because he's not going to be able to guard Ja. He's not going to be able to guard Bane. So Gary Payton maybe sees around 20 minutes, and they're going to throw him on Ja. Obviously not going to score 15 points. I can see him floating around 8 points, but Does have the ability to get you some rebounds, assists, a block, or steal. So at 3,400, definitely another value play you can look to for this game. Kuminga's kind of out of the rotation in the playoffs. And then Looney, I don't think you can expect to see him against the Grizzlies. They've gone small. Maybe he'll match up against Brandon Clarke off the bench or Steven Adams for a little bit, but I just don't think I would get there as of right now at 3,100. On the Memphis side, we have John Morant, 9,600. Really, really like him against Steph Curry and Steph's defense. Obviously, Steph is not a great defender at all, so Josh should be able to get his own. It's unfortunate. The past two games, obviously, the second to last game, shot the ball 22 times, but if you weren't watching, he only shot it about 5 times in the first half, had like 8 points, and then went off in the second half, got to the free throw line, so that really helped his points. But this last game, only shot the ball 14 times. Once again, he only shot it, I think he 0 points, 5 assists in the first half, shot the ball twice, only shot it like 3 more times in the second quarter. I'm not sure why he's not being as aggressive in the first half. I know Bane's been scoring the ball well. They're trying to get other guys involved, but I do think Josh should flourish in this opportunity against Steph when it comes to the offensive game. So I do expect him to bounce back up to his normal point per game average. So really, really like Ja in this matchup as a little run back against the Golden State guys. Bane's been playing great, pretty much 4 games in a row of 40 fantasy points or more. Shooting the ball a ton, playing the minutes. He's a good defensive player, averaging over a steal per game, getting those rebounds, which you like to see, and the assists. So at 6,900, I think he's a really good play. Brandon Clarke, been playing amazing. I think he fits this game flow very well against the Golden State Warriors when he's small, quick guy, or not small, but smaller, big, quick. Great energy, guys. You can see he put up 17, 11, 5, and 3 in 33 minutes on only 9 shots. So I do really like him at 6,100. He's become relevant again, especially in this series, which you do like to see. Coming off the bench, he was a little bit limited over the season. Obviously, there's some games he did well, but it's nice to see him getting some steady, consistent minutes, about 30 or more on the past 4 games. So I do really like Brandon Clarke as well at 6,100. I do think he could have a little bit of issues if he's matched up with Draymond, but still really like Brandon Clarke. Jaren Jackson Jr. had a great game, bounce back game, 45.5 fantasy points, 18 and 14. Obviously went well above his average of 6 rebounds per game, so don't think you can expect that again. Played 34 minutes, shot the ball 15 times, a little bit above his average for the season as well. Got you 2 blocks to steal. I think this is definitely a ceiling type game for Jaren Jackson Jr. Obviously, the Warriors are small, but they're also quick and fast, and this is just setting up to be one of those games where Jaren Jackson Jr. is already averaging like basically 5 fouls a game, and when you throw in guys like Steph, Poole, even Draymond, KLAY, who are going to either shoot the ball or go to the rim, I think it's just setting up for Jaren Jackson Jr. to get in massive foul trouble. I don't think you can expect a ceiling game from him. So at 5,900, it's a decent price for him. I just don't think it sets up well for him. Don't mind Brooks at 5,800. Got off to a hot start last game. But it's one of those things where he's kind of like the 3rd, 4th option now with Bane kind of taking over that secondary role. So I don't think I'd get to him, but I don't mind it. Same with Kyle Anderson. He's, limited on the minutes. Don't think they go there unless they go small ball against the Warriors, which they might have to, but the only guy to take a shot on the lower end range for the Grizzlies is Tyus Jones. He's playing the minutes, and he's playing well in these minutes. As you can see, 16 minutes, 21 fantasy points, 14 minutes, 25, 22 minutes, 25 fantasy points, 20 minutes, 19. You get the point. 26 minutes, 20 fantasy points. He's getting a steal game, which really helps out the fantasy points, but he's getting those assists, getting rebounds, scoring the points. 4K, I think it's great value for Tyus Jones. They're going to need his energy off the bench, his playmaking ability. So I do like him at 4K as a nice value play. And that really does it for me. Steven Adams, I don't think he'll be relevant in this series. He's just too... The Warriors are going to go small. They're going to go, Steph, Poole, KLAY, Draymond, and maybe Looney for like 10 minutes. But otherwise, you're going to see guys like Otto Porter Jr. come in. Who else? Otto Porter Jr. Oh, Wiggins. I forgot Wiggins. Sorry. So Steph, Poole, Clay, Wiggins, and Draymond. And if that happens, I just don't see how a guy like Steven Adams or even Xavier Tillman are going to play. I think the Grizzlies are going to match up with throwing guys like Kyle Anderson in there and Brandon Clarke in there as their bigs, their centers. So I think this is going to be a small ball series, lots of scoring, a lot of foul opportunities for Jaren Jackson Jr. to foul out. So I don't think I'd get to him. I'd say my favorite players are obviously Ja, Bane, Clarke, and then Tyus Jones. And then if we get the news that they're going to start small and match up with the Warriors, then I do have some interest in Kyle Anderson coming off the bench 4,100. But otherwise, kind of just stick to those main guys on the Memphis side. Obviously, Steph, not the best defender, so I do think you want to target him with playing John Morant. Draymond Green, I think you are going to want to pair him with either Steph or with Clay, just because, they're all going to flow together. And then Robert Williams, if he gets those minutes, really love him at 5,000. Think he's way too cheap. He's a guy who can, really help you win in this slate, in this series. So I think at 5,000, you could expect either 25 or like even close to 40 fantasy points from him. So I do think he's in a great spot. These are my 4 core plays as of right now. Sorry, I don't know why I'm like pausing. These are my favorite 4 core plays as of right now, heading into the games for tomorrow. I know this is a long one, but I know a lot of people do like the longer slates, analysis of me just talking, thinking about, what I think is going to happen with these games, and then you guys can kind of just, build off of that, either, agree or disagree, but it does help you kind of take certain stances on guys and kind of look for different opportunities. Let's see if I can throw in one more player. I would say Clarke. Do like running back with Clarke. Leaves you 4,600 left over to get to, 3 players. You can throw in Otto Porter Jr. to, help the salary out and stuff like that. But this is what I'm looking at as of right now. Obviously, you can switch some guys around. You can put Draymond at the forward right here. While Williams, you can move him to power forward, or Clarke to power forward and Robert Williams to center. So you can definitely play around with this lineup. But as of right now, these are the core plays I like. Definitely make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Do appreciate the support. I'll be having a NBA Prize Pick early slate look coming out later today as well. And definitely make sure to follow me on Twitter, as I'm not sure if I'll be able to put out a day of video of this slate. So I'll just be putting out my core plays on my Twitter. So make sure to follow me there. And I'll see you guys later today. Peace.